All right, with the second scenario, we talked about the global south and the rest of the world believing in Ukraine. So in this scenario, we see that the Ukrainians or the Russians have blown up a dirty bomb, but the Western propaganda beats the Russian ones, and China and India and the global south all believe that it's Russia who has used the bomb. This would give the NATO forces the justification they need for an all-out offensive in the Ukraine. They will try to completely they'll they'll initiate a large-scale air campaign against Russia, try to completely destroy the air defense as well as their fleet in the Black Sea, and they'll try to destroy the Russian army in Ukraine. So most likely what we'll see is a lightning campaign by NATO where they send a lot of troops to frontline areas, and then they will initiate a large air campaign followed by a ground force that will go and advance towards the Russian positions and try to kick them out of Ukraine. We'll also see a naval operation where we'll see them landing on Crimea and the southern Ukraine, trying to outmaneuver and encircle Kherson and other cities in Ukraine. And we'll see a full NATO operation in Ukraine where every country will be involved, possibly even including Turkey. And we'll see no support for Russia except for Belarus, as no other country would support Russia in a scenario where they all believe that Russia has used a dirty bomb in Ukraine. This is because it would be vastly unpopular for all other countries to support a country that has possibly used nukes in modern time. A dirty bomb is not a nuke, but it is similar enough for the West to be using that as a propaganda term to keep all support away from Russia. With this, we'll see NATO using their full force to try and completely destroy the Russian special military operation in Ukraine, and they'll stop at nothing to achieve that. That is the scenario that I have in mind.
Wait, first off, if this really happens and the global south and China believes that it's actually Russia who launched the nuke, the Chinese and the global south will probably condemn Russia massively, and they might actually take a distance to Russia. However, this is actually really important because before this, you would always have Russians say, okay, well, at least the Chinese and the Indians are not against. Maybe they say things like we want peace and stuff, but they're not actually stopping them, and they're still trading with them. So they say, oh, at least we have half of the world's population with them, or at least staying neutral. But if the whole world goes against Russia, this would actually demoralize the Russian people a lot. So this would actually make Russia become very unstable within. And I think that's really, really important in this scenario. So this would be a huge blow. That's also one of the reasons I think the Russians would never use a dirty bomb. And actually, they might not even use a nuclear bomb, even if they are close to defeat. Even if they are defeated. Because this is like the worst case scenario. It's actually better. I personally believe that it's better to surrender than use a nuke for the Russians.
But this, of course, is within the scope of Ukraine and not Russia itself.
Yeah, but the Russians have annexed these 4 regions and Crimea.
That is a good point. So where exactly would you draw the line? Where would Russia start using nukes and where wouldn't they?
So if NATO were to launch an all-out invasion, not just in Ukraine, a special military operation where they don't really touch Russia, I think I believe they'll make the NATO will make a special military operation against Russia if the dirty bomb is destroyed, because the NATO wants to prove they don't want to escalate the whole conflict a lot, and they probably just want to prove to the world that they have not lost their hegemonic power in the world.
So essentially this would be a conflict where this would be NATO's last stand to keep their hegemony in the world, while this would be Russia's opportunity to knock them off their stage and make the world multipolar in one single strike.
Yeah. Basically, it's to beat the Russians at their own game. That's it. If they can beat the Russians at their own game, that's the ultimate, the ultimate goal of the NATO. If they beat them in their own game, that's it. It's the end for Russian what can you say, Russian aggressions. It's the end of this new movement by Putin to change the world.
So essentially, this is a war that has global consequences, which is why we are seeing Putin, for example, in his latest speech, which was a couple of days ago, where he was using words as a global conflict is very near and stuff like that. And with the rumors of the dirty bomb that they have started spreading, they've also contacted different ministries of defense, as well as our chief of army staff. The Russian chief of army staff, as well as foreign minister, has talked with the Chinese, Turkish, French, German, British, and American counterparts. And the Chinese foreign minister, as well as chief of army staff, have both supported Russia's claim and have said that they are standing with them and they will protect them. Not exactly protect them, but that their interests are aligned, and that no one can threaten the common Chinese and Russian goal. So we're seeing here China actually taking a side prior to this, as they are ready to support Russia's claim. If a dirty bomb explodes, most likely we'll see China supporting the Russian propaganda. And with their influence in the global south, we may even see them push the results to the first scenario rather than the second scenario, or even create a third scenario where half of the world believes in Russia and the other half in the West and Ukraine.
So back to the question where you asked me if the Russians would ever use nukes in this war. I think the only scenario I can think about is if all of NATO just all out invaded and mobilized to destroy all of Russia. If we see NATO tanks advancing towards Moscow, then maybe that's probably where they would use nukes, but not in a limited conflict. No.
Do you think there's any chance that the West or NATO or the United States would try to conquer Russia?
No. I don't think they would ever try to escalate it to a massive regional conflict, because this might actually start World War III. So I don't think it will come to that. That's also why I don't think nukes would be used at all.
So you're completely ruling out the use of nukes in this conflict?
Yes.
Alright. I think that's going to be it for this video. Thank you all for watching, and I hope you'll come back for the next time. Have a great day.